Hey friends, welcome back for another video. Today's video is just going to be another chatty one. I'm going to talk about why we made the decision to move non-sponsored and how much it costs. I have been asked that, and I am not going to shy away. I'm going to be very transparent. I talked a little bit in my first video about moving non-sponsored. You know that there is the added financial burden. And so I'm just gonna give you real numbers of what it was for our family of 5 to move non-sponsored. So maybe if you're on the fence, this will give you, a ballpark thing to consider. So first, I want to talk about I tried to combine those. I want to talk about why we made the decision to move non-sponsored. So for our family, it was just really simple. We wanted to stay together for the year. And here, we have that choice. We've been married long enough, and my husband has been in the military long enough that we've done multiple deployments and TDYs. And, we never had the option for any other location. But for here, you do have the option. So we just felt like, why not? We want to be together. It felt like his last deployment was just a blink ago, which, if you're a military family, it always feels like that. I feel like there's no amount of time that they're home that you're like good and settled before the next deployment happens. It's a part of life and the military life, and it sucks. It sucks. It doesn't matter how many you've been through. It just sucks. And so we felt like, man, being apart for a whole year, like that, it had its, we wrestled for a short time because it really wasn't that long before we made our decision. But then ultimately we were like, put the financial stuff aside, it's worth it. And we still feel that way being here now for almost 2 months. Our decision was 100% worth it, and we would do it over again. Without even questioning it. So also another thing to consider is coming non-sponsored, or I guess I should say if the service member has orders to Korea for a short tour and you already have a follow-on, but you choose to apply for command sponsorship, you will lose your follow-on. So that's something to consider if you have a follow-on already prior to coming or once here in Korea, and you want to keep that follow-on, then non-sponsored is probably for you. So let's talk about how much it costs to come non-sponsored. So there is the added upfront cost, and I say upfront because the total upfront is going to be different than the final total, and that's because coming non-sponsored, you aren't going to be reimbursed for everything, but there are things that you will be reimbursed for, and I'll touch on those. So, and I'm just going to break it down with each one and then give you the total upfront and then give you the total after our reimbursements, what it was. So, and again, mind you, every family situation is different. Some of the expenses I added in here, you're likely not going to have unless you're in the exact same situation our family was in. And this is also for a family of 5. So keep that in mind. If you have a larger family, obviously the upfront cost is going to be more. If you have a smaller family, or maybe it's just you and your spouse moving, it's going to be a lot less. So the first thing was passports. So my husband and I already had our passports, so that thankfully we didn't have to have any added expense for him and I. Our kids, however, only had their passport cards because we've been on a cruise before, so they had those, but we needed to upgrade them to the passport books. And so the total for that, for all 3 of them, was $345 for the passport books. And those actually came ridiculously fast. I did say in my first video, that should be the first thing that you do if you decide to come non-sponsored, is get your passports. for us, I'm not sure if it's because they already had books or they already had the cards, but getting their books, I mean, their books came in less than 2 weeks. So, yeah, just if you're in that same situation and maybe you're just going from a card to a book, it should come relatively quickly. Then your plane tickets. So our plane tickets total, I couldn't find the exact amount because I don't know what I did with the receipt and I couldn't go back that far for some reason on my statement to look. But I know our plane tickets were about $3,000 for all 5 of us. Yeah, and we did call, they would have actually been more, but we called the Delta military line, and so we ended up getting several $100s off of our plane tickets, so something to consider there. Then we had, so these are other costs that I did include in here for us because this was just what the situation we were in. So we still own our home at our last base. We're renting it out. And so we had some different expenses. So the first one was moving all of our stuff into storage, which if you're coming non-sponsored, you likely will have this expense as well. So the U-Haul was about $100 for the rental and then gas. And then we had to pay for our first month of our storage unit, which our storage unit for the size is roughly $200 a month. It's a little bit less than that, but I just rounded it up. And then we paid for, because we had to be out of our house, and we did have some very sweet people that offered to have us stay with them prior to moving out, from, you know, the gap of moving out of our home and actually leaving. But there was so much going on in that last week of us leaving that it was just easier for us to get lodging. And because also the day we flew out, our flights left ridiculously early. So we had to be there really early, and we just thought this was the easiest way. So our lodging that we got PCSing out from our last base was $690, and that, I believe we had lodging for 5 days, I think. I can't exactly remember, but I think that was about 5 days. Another cost we had was we had shipped, or we had mailed some things that we wanted to have right away, not waiting on the movers. So we had mailed some stuff in APO boxes, which we quickly regretted after getting said boxes. Only one made it intact. But that was about $100. You live and learn. And then we had our rental car cost so we sold our main family vehicle, and then my husband's car got put into storage while we're here. And so we needed a rental car. We only got the rental car for the last night we were at our last base to get to the airport. And we had planned it that way. So we had sold our car the day before, and then got our rental car. So that cost was $95. That's with the rental fee, and then the gas we had to put in it. Then I guess a little bit before all of that, my husband, when he dropped his car off at the storage facility, the closest one to us was in California. So he had to drive to California, and there was a mishap at the first vehicle processing center. So he had to drive to a different city in California to drop it off. Thankfully, it did get there successfully, but because of that mishap, he ended up having to spend the night in California, which we were not planning on, but you know, things happen. And so our oldest daughter went with him also. And so to change, we already had their plane tickets, which were ridiculously cheap, but then we had to change their plane tickets from where they were now going to be flying out of, and for their hotel. So that was about $300. Then let's see, sorry if I'm looking down, I'm looking at the list I made. Then you have your once here, We had our quarantine lodging for the 2 weeks here. We thankfully were in the TLF on base here. And so we had, you know, a little kitchen. It was still a very tight fit for 5 of us, but we made it work. And that for the 2 weeks was $1,080. And then after you're in quarantine, you cannot stay in the same lodging. You have to move either across the street, or well, I guess if you're in TLF, the lodging is across the street. For us, they had no availability. So they gave my husband a non-A letter, and then we found a hotel off base, and we were in that hotel for 9 days. And the total of that was $1,200. And then once we found our apartment, you have to pay your first month's rent and your deposit, which your deposit is the same as your first month's rent. I have heard that there is leeway with this, that some landlords and realtors will allow you to wait until your OHA kicks in to pay, or you can also get upfront OHA. We had already budgeted for this, so we just paid upfront. And for us, the day that we picked to have our rent paid, they ended up just prorating the rent amount and the deposit amount to match the same. So we paid upfront $2,300. And then actually I think it was a little less than that, but we'll just say $2,300. And then the other cost that we had was food. So when we were in, I don't have an exact number for this, but when we were in quarantine, we only ate out or had food delivered twice, I think, maybe 3 times. We're just not a huge family that eats out a lot, which was hard, you know, being here and not having groceries and anything. It's kind of like it's forced upon you. But so what I would say we spent in that quarantine time and our hotel stay was between $500 and maybe $700. I will say our first commissary grocery order was freaky expensive because we were just given like everything name brand, we didn't, you know, really think to factor in the cost of certain things here. So like when I ordered chicken, for example, I'm totally fine with frozen chicken, but I didn't think to specify that. So we got fresh chicken, and for the amount of chicken I had requested on this grocery form that they have here, our chicken alone ended up being close to like $70. I mean, it was crazy for 1 week of meals. Like it was insane. So something to keep that in mind. If you plan on eating out every meal, then you know, there is going to be that added expense. So just keep that in mind. Once we were in our hotel unfortunately did not have a kitchen. We just had a little mini fridge and a microwave. And so once we were out of quarantine, we went to the store and we just got things that we could easily heat up in the microwave. I think while we were in our hotel, we still ate out, not every single day, but I think we maybe ate out 4 times the whole time we were in our hotel. So, I mean, you'll know, you know, how much your family eats, what your regular food budget is. I would maybe just add a little more, give yourself a good buffer. So the total cost that we had up front was a little under $10,000. It came out to about $9,900, which it's a lot. Yes, it's a lot. However, what our total after the fact ended up being was about $8,000 because we were reimbursed roughly $2,000. So my husband was reimbursed his plane ticket. He had applied for circuitous travel to travel commercially with us. And that was approved. And so they will reimburse you the cost of what it would have been, or what it would have cost the government to fly them on the rotator. And so for us, that ended up being the entire cost of his ticket. Thank the Lord. And then we were also reimbursed for our after quarantine hotel because he had gotten the non-A letter from the lodging on base that they didn't have any availability. And so, and the reason that was reimbursed is because he got a non-A, regardless of if we were here with him or not, he would have had to stay off base. And so they would have reimbursed him anyway. And so, yeah, so I would just recommend, if you are planning on moving non-sponsored, the moment you make the decision, just start saving. We had about 4.5, 5 months that we knew once we made the decision before we flew out. So every paycheck, we were just throwing every bit of anything extra into savings for this move. We did use our credit card to pay for everything and then just paid it off after. And I know the amount seems really crazy and overwhelming, but again, it is 100% worth it. We feel we have no regrets at all of spending that much to move our family here so that we can stay together. And that's ultimately what the decision you have to make is, you know, is the cost worth it in the end? Oh, and I will say one added bonus. So we actually way over budgeted because one thing that thank the Lord happily surprised us with is we thought we were going to have to pay for our COVID tests that we needed prior to coming. We had looked at different things, and it was all the time that we came, there was so much changing. And I mean, I feel like there's still so much changing, but there was so much information back and forth that was incorrect. Some things that my husband was being told that were not correct, but then, you know, over here they're saying this, and it was just mass confusion. So we had thought we would need to get an off-site COVID test, and when we ran the numbers, it was crazy. You know, I mean, it would have been more than our plane tickets. We were just like shocked. So thankfully my husband found out right in the nick of time that we could all get tested at our losing base. And so he just planned that for us. He called the clinic, scheduled it, and that was that. So, you know, if you are in the same position as us and maybe you're getting a lot of conflicting information, that would be the first place I would start, is just call your local MTF and just ask them, hey, do you do this? Let's get it scheduled. And then they thankfully knew like everything to do, how many copies to print out. It was a very quick and seamless process and saved us so much money, which we were so very thankful for. So that is about it, guys. I hope that this was helpful. And, you know, good luck to anyone watching who is in the same position of trying to figure out if this is the right move for you. I will say that, you know, the upfront cost is very scary, but if you think of how much money you'll be saving once here, that is another factor to consider. You know, you're not going to have, like for us, we don't have a car, so we don't have car insurance, we don't have car payments. If you have those, you know, maybe your car is going to be in storage or you're going to sell your car, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have, once you're actually out in the community, food is actually very affordable, the different markets and things they have. So your grocery bill may go way down, which for us it has. There's just so many different factors that, you know, it seems like a lot up front, but over time it really all balances out. And I know a lot of people even actually save a ton of money once being here. So that's it, guys. And yeah, hope you enjoyed watching this, and I'll see you in my next video.